A Berean 2025, Study 3.2, Who is Adonai? Shalom, this is the second in a series of studies on the subject of Who is. 1. Background. Yahuwah is our Creator's Shem. His name is also his Zeka, spoken memorial or witness, which we are not to bring to shav, destruction, lying, or falsehood. Calling on his name. Abraham called upon our Creator's name on 3 occasions. Our Creator declared his name to Abraham on 2 occasions. Following his way. Abraham followed the way of Yahuwah. For I have known him so that he commands his children and his household after him to guard the way of Yahuwah, to do righteousness and right ruling, so that Yahuwah brings to Abraham what he has spoken to him. The prophets Yeshayahu and Yirmiyahu make it clear we are to follow the way of Yahuwah. Our Creator's name is never preached from the pulpits of churches or synagogues. Our religious leaders teach us to replace our Creator's name. Christianity replaces it with K-U-R-I-O-S, D-O-M-I-N-U-S, L-O-R-D uppercase, L-O-R-D lowercase, tetragram, and nomina sacra. Jewish Talmudic traditions forbid its use and replace it with H-A-S-H-E-M or A-D-O-N-A-I. Yeah, right. 2. Who is Adonai? In this study, I wish to point out the subtle difference between Strong's H1870 adorn, a common noun, full spelling, a title of respect used in conjunction with our Creator's name. Strong's H1813 adon, a common noun, defective spelling, a title of respect used for human authorities. Strong's H136 Adonai, a proper noun, full spelling, the name of a pagan deity. And also point out the construct forms of the common noun H113 has identical consonants to the proper noun H136. H113 Adoni, a common noun. H113 Adoni, a common noun. H136 Adonai, a proper noun, the name of a pagan deity. The consonants of these 3 terms are identical, and our scholars and translators are not always consistent with their differentiation between these terms. Here are 4 examples from the Tanakh of why we should not speak the word H136. Malachim Aleph 22, 1-29, and specifically verses 5-7 when read in the Hebrew. And Jehoshaphat said to the sovereign of Yisra'ěl, Please first inquire for the word of Yahuwah. And the sovereign of Yisra'ěl gathered the prophets, about 400 men, and said to them, Do I go up against Ramoth Gilead to battle, or do I refrain? And they said, Go up, for Adonai does give it into the hand of the sovereign. And Jehoshaphat said, Is there not a prophet of Yahuwah besides, that we might inquire of him? The Northern Kingdom prophets were calling on H136 Adonai, while the Southern Kingdom prophets were calling on H3068 Yahuwah. 1. Jehoshaphat is the king of Yehuda, and he knew the Southern Kingdom prophets were calling on Yahuwah, while the 400 Northern Kingdom prophets were calling on Adonai. 2. The prophet Zedekiah knew our Creator's name was Yahuwah, yet he was one of the Northern Kingdom prophets who were calling on Adonai. 3. This is the reason our Creator gave the Northern Kingdom prophets a false spirit. 4. Jehoshaphat, the king of Yehuda, knew all of this, yet he still followed the king of Yisra'ěl in attacking Ramoth Gilead. The prophet Ezekiel contrasts the way of Adonai with the way of Yahuwah. Unbelieving Yisra'ěl states it follows the way of Adonai, and our Creator says to them, "Your ways are not my ways." The wicked abomination of Ezekiel 8:8-18 is weeping for Adonai Hebrew, Adonis Greek, Adoni Phoenician, also known as Tammuz Babylonian, all of them the names of the sun deity. Strong's number H1870 Adonai is a proper noun, the name of a pagan deity. Yirmiyahu chapter 44, and specifically verse 26 when read in the Hebrew. The Bnei Yisrael, who had not been exiled to Babylon, but were in Mitzrayim along with the prophet Yirmiyahu, were provoking our Creator by worshipping the false deities of the land of Mitzrayim. As a result, our Creator would punish them by the sword, by scarcity of food, and by pestilence. And also, he would prevent them from speaking his name. Therefore, hear the word of Yahuwah, all Yehudi who are dwelling in the land of Mitzrayim. See, I have sworn by my great name, declares Yahuwah. My name shall no longer be called upon by the mouth of any man of Yehuda in the land of Mitzrayim, saying, As lives Adonai Yahuwah. See, I am watching over them for evil and not for good, and all the men of Yehuda who are in the land of Mitzrayim shall be consumed by the sword and by scarcity of food until they come to an end. Note, the prophet Yirmiyahu writes, As lives Adonai Yahuwah, not as lives Adon Yahuwah. This is a subtle but important point. Our Creator does not appreciate being addressed or referred to as H1870 Adonai. 3. Summary. Abraham called on the name of Yahuwah, and Abraham followed the way of Yahuwah. In Malachim Aleph, we see the Northern Kingdom prophets calling on the name Adonai, while the Southern Kingdom prophets are calling on the name Yahuwah. In Ezekiel, we see Unbelieving Yisra'ěl following the way of Adonai, and our Creator says to them, Your ways are not my ways. In Ezekiel, we see the wicked abomination is weeping for Adonai Hebrew, also known as Tammuz Babylonian. In Yirmiyahu, we see Unbelieving Yisra'ěl speaking the name Adonai, and our Creator does not appreciate it. In each of the above cases, Adonai is being used as a proper noun. 4 times in the Tanakh, we are warned, H1870 Adonai is a pagan deity. Strong's H113 full spelling is a common noun, a title of respect used in conjunction with our Creator's name. Adon, Ha-Adon, Adoni. Strong's H113 defective spelling is a common noun, a title of respect used of mighty men and human authorities. Adon, Ha-Adon, Adoni, Adoniam. So yes, Adorn and Adon and their construct and plural forms are legitimate common nouns or titles of respect used in the Tanakh. However, Adonai is a proper noun, and it is the name of a pagan deity. And there is such a subtle phonetic difference between these terms that I personally avoid using them, and I avoid listening to people who do use these terms, especially if they use these terms as a substitution for our Creator's name, which they usually are. For conclusion, we have been given a name to call on, Yahuwah, and we have been given a way to follow, the way of Yahuwah. The believing remnant of Yisra'ěl follow the way of Yahuwah. Unbelieving Yisra'ěl follows the way of Adonai. Gentiles, including the Christian Church, follow the way of the Lord, also known as the way of Baal, which is the way of Satan. Substituted lies.